students. This is the correctional video for In the Wild number 2. Now this was focusing on samples that I had taken from student examples of quotation. So these are things that students themselves wrote when offered when given a prompt to do some quotation, just as you did for the quotation quiz that we did as our introduction quotation quiz. So what I'm going to do is I have 2 samples here. I'm going to go through, and first I'm going to discuss what is wrong with each of these, so you have a list of what's wrong, and then I'm going to start making my adjustments to the text itself. So for number 1, Julian is racist because he wants a distinguished Black friend to get back at his mother. In Flannery O'Connor's story, this subversive racism is shown when Julian had tried to strike up an acquaintance on the bus with some of the better types, with ones that looked like professors or minister or lawyers. O'Connor, 10-11. So first, we're just going to go through, remember those 6 items that I've talked to you over and over. You need, for every quotation that you give to me, it has to start with an interpretive context sentence, then a complex signal phrase, then smooth transition into an accurate quotation, a correct in-text citation, and punctuation. So, of these, do I have an interpretive context sentence? Well, actually I do, and it's a really good one. Look at this. Julian is racist because he wants a distinguished Black friend to get back at his mother. That's an interpretive context sentence, and it's a good kind of interpretive statement that could start off a paragraph for you, because this is, it's making a statement. Julian is racist because this thing right here that they're showing, and this is actually a good example of when you can use quotation, because that's going to help you argue that this behavior is racist, that's problematic, that he's doing it just to get back at his mother, all those good things that can put you in a good direction. So this is a really nice start, actually. So that's my interpretive context sentence. That's there. Great. All of this is my signal phrase. Is it complex? Yeah, it is. It's very useful. So it's definitely complex, and it's not simple. It's not just O'Connor says or anything like that. In Flannery O'Connor's story, this subversive racism is shown when, what I like is that the student, they are referencing author. What I really like is this part right here, because this subversive racism is shown when, that's a good reference back to what's the big idea. Why are you actually using this quotation? So that's a good, tie-in. Now, here's a problem. Is this my signal phrase? Is my signal phrase smooth? It is not, because look at that comma right there. Why is it there? We need a smooth transition. Okay. What is next? Well, let's look at this. I see that my quote came from 10-11. So let me pull up my everything that rises must converge. We've got to go to the correct page. And this is one of those reasons why it can really help you to have these particular ones printed out. Quotation will be a little bit easier once you're using the books that we share, because then we're all flipping together, but this can be a bit annoying. Okay, so remember that in this, we want to strike up an acquaintance on the bus with some of the better types. Yep, here we are down here. He had tried to strike up, and that bracket was a perfectly appropriate switch out. He had tried to strike up an acquaintance on the bus with some of the better types, comma, with ones that looked like professors or ministers or lawyers. Now let's look back. Okay, Julian, again, perfectly appropriate swap out with the brackets. That's how you insert your own language in to make that he more clear. That's a good swap. Had tried to strike up an acquaintance on the bus with some of the better types, with ones that look like professors or ministers or lawyers. All right, so first of all, I'm missing a comma right over there. And minister should have been ministers. So this is not accurate quotation. And my in-text citation, is it correct? No, it's not, because what do I know what goes in my in-text citation when I'm dealing with something with pagination? So not a web source, not like what you're doing in some of your homework assignments, where it's always going to have just the last name of the author. But in this, when you actually had real pages in front of you, what it determines what goes into it is what's in my signal phrase right here. And if the author is named in the signal phrase, as we see, Flannery O'Connor, then the author is not named in the in-text citation. So there's a problem with my in-text citation. Okay. So what, I'm putting all of these out so that you see them, whenever you're looking at them. They don't have to be in your correction that you sent to me. What needs to be in the correction is we need to make this a smooth transition. And thankfully, all we have to do is take out that comma, because there was no grammatical reason for it to be there. My writer put it there almost really out of reflex, didn't belong there. Okay, I need to make sure that, so that's, now I have a smooth transition, fantastic. Now I need to make sure that I have an accurate quotation. So I'm gonna have to I need a comma there, and I need an S right over there. Well, now I have an accurate quotation, good work. And now I need my correct in-text citation, which we've already discussed. All I have to do is take that out. This one was very close to being correct, which was one of the reasons why I like putting it in the sample, because it's a really good sample. And again, when you are doing these in the wilds, where I'm asking you to do quotation correction, and just spoiler, I'm going to be doing that really a lot. You're going to be seeing so many of these. You need to have really just written down on a piece of paper. I don't even know if you can see it. There are the 6 things that you need. You need to have those just written down on an index card or part of your notes. And when you're correcting these quotations or doing quotations of yourself, you just need to go down and check through. Do I have interpretive context sentence? Do I have complex signal phrase? Do I have smooth transition? Do I have accurate quotation? Do I have in-text citation? Do I have punctuation? Just go down them like a list and check them off. Okay, here's number 2. Number 2 is a little more exciting. Julian knew that appearance meant everything to his mother, which bothered him. There was in him an evil urge to break her spirit. He suddenly loosened his tie and pulled it off and put it in his pocket. Period. O'Connor, 1008. All right, so we've got a couple issues here. So first of all, well, is this actually interpretive? Not really. He knew that appearance meant everything to his mother, which bothered him. That's pretty factual. I don't think anyone's really going through this story and would really question whether Julian knew that appearance meant everything to his mother and that bothered him. That's more problematic. So I would like you to, frankly, just, in your correction, and I'm not going to do this for you, but I do want you to make sure that you do it. You need an interpretive context sentence, which means you need to rewrite that. So rewrite that whole first sentence. Just take it out and rewrite it. And think about what are topics that you actually would be interpretive. Why does Julian want to agitate his mother? What are his feelings for his mother? Why is he doing these sorts of things? Does it have anything to do with the way he thinks of himself or about her? Build me an interpretive context sentence. All right. You'll notice we're missing something. So here was my interpretive context, well, it wasn't interpretive, but it stood in as a context sentence. So there that was. And then thud, there's a quote, nothing between, no looping in there. The signal phrase needs to be that transition between your language and the language of the source. And it doesn't even exist here. So, all of you need to write for me a complex signal phrase. You're going to need that in order for this to be correct. So I need to see that. Once I have that complex signal phrase, I'm also going to need a smooth transition. So I'm just putting that in. So that should be on your checklist of what you're creating for this. All right. I'm not going to go to 1008, but I will tell you, yeah, this was accurate. It was a good copy. I do have another problem though with punctuation. So not correct. That period there, that is the true end of the sentence that was the true end of the sentence in the story. I don't have a period there. Basically what happens is the punctuation, that if it's at the true end of the story, it goes over here, and it's at the end of your sentence, indicating that you have I'm going to go up here because that actually makes more sense. All of this is grammatically considered one sentence. It's your part of the, of the, signal phrase, then the full quotation, in-text citation, and period end. It all counts as one sentence. So make sure that you do all of these. So work on that. So if any of you got points off, I want you to make sure that you get them all back in, that you correct this, and you get it back to me by the deadline so that I can give everyone 100s, because nothing makes me happier than doing that. So if you're having questions and you're not sure how I'm doing any of this or why I'm doing certain things, you should email me and ask questions, or even better yet, go back and review my quotation lectures that I've posted thus far. Go through them slowly, take notes, and clarify what's going on as we do this. All right. I hope that everyone has a really nice day, conclusion of your day, and we will discuss this more in future lectures. So have a great day.